Good evening everyone, this is me again in what's going on in John's shed, another little video on the Valiant progress. As you'll perhaps recognise, this is the clutch basket from an LE stroke Valiant, and what I've done is made a little plastic plug that will fit nicely through the centre, snug fit. And the dimple in the end is to locate in the centre of the clutch plate, which I'll try and swing around without knocking everything flying, because I'm no photographer, as you've perhaps gathered. On the top of the clutch assembly there's a little pip, and this is just machined to fit as a nice snug fit to centralise that. So when this is assembled into there, when I attempt to slide this over to line all my clutch plates up, I can press on that with my drill press. That will locate on there, and that should centralise it all when I compress it, if that makes sense. So I've got the new plates through from the Velo LE Club, which is once again excelled itself. I ordered them on the Friday morning and they all arrived here on the Monday morning with the postman. What excellent service. Thank you again, gentlemen, you're brilliant. So what we have here is the clutch assembly with the friction plates, the new friction plates and the old metal plates all cleaned up and positioned. The springs are all in their little spring pockets in the bottom, and the outer plate there, I'll line them all up approximately. I can drop that on the floor nicely, of course. I can then slide this over the top, completely cocking it all up, of course. Put that over the top and then line the clutch plates as I wriggle it down onto the assembly. So that's all nicely now got all the plates, all the dogs on all the friction plates all lined up nicely. If I just turn this sufficiently, I can easily then get the nuts and washers on here. So if I now centralise this over my drill press, this is all very high tech, as you can tell. It's a nice central point there to push on. Just to demonstrate, as I push the drill press down, it compresses the whole pack here. I don't know if you can actually see that happening, but that's compressing the whole pack. What you have to do is to make sure that they all slide down far enough to be able to press this on. I have on my drill press a little nut that I can turn, which will hold it in that position now. So I've now got this free hand. There, pushed down, as you can see now. So there's enough protruding from there to put a washer. Of course, my nimble little fingers are perfect for this job. Not. And screw the nuts on. I have somewhere in my position a socket that fits nicely on there. One, Put another washer on, and another nut. And the good thing about having a drill press like this is I can lock it. It frees a hand up, which is always useful, especially when you're a bit of a fat-fingered oaf like myself. I was very lucky that the little bit of plastic that I've used to press on, I just happened to have an offcut at the side of my lathe from another project, goodness knows what, but again, I never throw anything away because you never know, and this is one of those cases. It's I don't think anybody else is quite convinced of my logic, but I'm sure I'm not alone. So there's the 4 nuts on. So now I've got a bit of security as far as that's pulling that pack up nicely together. To balance this casing, because it's on the top of the reduction gear bearing end, to balance it all I've got a strategically placed packer under this end to balance it all, which just happens to be a 4-pound hammer. If you do take a glance of it, I'm not going to hit it with a 4-pound hammer, it's just that it's an absolutely perfect measurement across. Now what I can do now is gently release my drill press like so, and nothing's gone bang yet, and I can remove that and my little plastic thing where that dimple there has centralised that beautifully now, because from experience, unless you get all of these perfectly centered as well as lined up, they will resist going onto the clutch basket when you try and fit it to the engine, because obviously if it's in good condition, there's not a great deal of clearance between the teeth and the clutch plates. Look at that, I've actually found all the washers, and I shouldn't tempt fate, but I've got all the nuts here in this box. Goodness me, I usually at this stage drop one and it vanishes into that abyss along with all the other little bits of screws, nuts, and of course 1 or 2 10mm sockets, no doubt, that will never be seen again. But this time I've actually managed it, goodness me. Right, so they're all on, and I can now whip those nuts just down so I know they're all sharing a bit of load. Sorry about the shadows and that, but as I say, I'm no lighting engineer and I'm certainly no photographer. Right, so they are all pulling up nicely. Now, just to see if I can prove my point with centralising anything, this is, by the way, just a spare basket I've got kicking about, which is quite worn on these teeth, so it's not going to get used again. And that now sits on there beautifully straight away like that, so I'm quite happy that, because that's central to this, when I fit this to the engine, and because obviously this is going to be mounted on the engine, I'm quite happy that they're going to slide in, because it is quite a fiddly job fitting it, because at the same time, as you're perhaps aware, we have this little fellow, and he's always good fun. There's this and its spring, which has to be all located and held with a strategic piece of string or whatever and slotted together. But as you can see now, let me just swing this round so I can get it off this. Sorry for any crap on the floor and my feet. that's assembly now. Is that clutch package all on there nicely. If I turn it over, this now is set in there. We had some exciting work getting a shim. If you remember my last video, I showed that the end float between this thrust face and this thrust face was a bit excessive. After a lot of measuring, clamping this together, deburring these faces, which were quite bad in places, and I got it all seated and worked it out, and I had to make a shim the simplest way, as Alan the Velo man suggested, just as I'd actually, funnily enough, cut a shim and packed between that gear and the shoulder that it all pulls up to. So when I nipped the centre up here, the end float actually worked out at exactly 3 thou, which is, as Alan said, an ideal measurement. I was very lucky that because my supply of shim steel is now dried up because I've retired, and the donations I used to get from the scrap bin at work has dried up. I managed to find a piece of shimming made from, and I'll show you this, please don't judge me, was a stainless steel dustbin lid. I can't just remember the measurements now, but this was exactly the right thickness. So I cut it out, as you can see, which was another experiment that I was doing with using making a heater. So that worked perfectly. Bit of stainless steel shimming, so you never give up keeping rubbish. But anyway, I hope that's of some interest to you. As I say, I'll continue doing little videos like this if people are interested. I think my next one will be taking the oil feed pipe from the oil pump that feeds the spray to the bearings that we've discussed into here, which doesn't line up, and it's been rubbing on this gear. So I'm going to take that off. I've took the wire out of it that somebody wired the nuts in, the bolts in, banjo bolts, for whatever reason. I've took those off and they're all ready to remove. So what I'll do in my next video, I'll get the engine set up and we'll have a look at that, and I'll take that off so I can anneal it so it's a bit more flexible, so I can get the alignment to this hole. I haven't got a spare casing that I can sacrifice really to make a jig up to line this up exactly. So I'll work something out and we'll have a look, see what people think about when we come to line it up, see how they think I've done it. Because I'm no velo expert, but I just sort of like working things out. So that's all for now from what's happening in John's shed. Good night. I'll see you soon.